All right, guys, welcome back to the Armchair Armdrager Podcast. This is episode number 21, and I, as always, am your host, Ben Hersick. It's been a relatively quiet week for professional wrestling on a whole. Not much happened on Raw. It was a good episode from what I heard. I didn't watch it. It was a pretty good episode from Tuesday Night SmackDown. Again, didn't watch it. And NXT is NXT, and it's always good. The main reason I didn't watch it is because for All Things Combat, we are on a company-wide holiday, so all of us are getting the week off, which is very nice. And we'll be back at it Monday next week. I will have an article going up on Thursday where it's my predictions for the WWE Draft, which is right around the corner. It's the second week of SmackDown. Why? Because, well, I'll get into that in a little bit later. But as always, before we get too far, Twitter, follow stuff, the same old mumbo jumbo. You can follow myself on Twitter at ChurroSolid. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. You can follow All Things Combat, which is a website that I write for where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA in a variety of capacities. I know Junior World Tag League is coming up soon for New Japan, so hopefully I can get something on that. I missed Battle of Los Angeles partly due to Clash of Champions and NXT coming out those days, I believe, relatively close to each other, I think. I might be wrong. I might correct that later. But I did have the final right. I had Bandito versus Jonathan Gresham in my predictions. I had the wrong winner. I had Gresham. I didn't remember it was a triple threat final either. The top two I had were right. I had Bandito and Gresham, and I picked Gresham, so I was wrong. So, oh well. But you can follow All Things Combat. I somehow got super derailed from that, where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA at Things Combat on Twitter. And I'm also the sports editor over at The Cauldron at Cleveland State, and we write about stuff happening at and around Cleveland State. So if you want to follow that, it is CSU Cauldron. The most recent issue is out now, where I write about the women's volleyball team and how their season has gone so far. I got to sit down with Coach Voss, which I am very, very, very grateful for doing that, and I'm very happy he took the time out of his schedule to do that. I'll have a link to that in the description below as well. Hopefully you guys can read it. I'm also sorry that I'm fighting a little bit of a cold right now, but it's almost that time of year to get sick again. So then again, I'm pretty much always sick, so nothing new. So let's look at the news from today, because today has been a busy day, at least from WWE's front. We had the new commentary teams revealed. We had a rumored signing. We had, I believe that was actually it. Busy day. Two big things happened. Somebody on Twitter posted about it semi-recently. I would scroll to try and find it, but that would take up too much time. So, the new commentary teams are apparently revealed. Monday Night Raw is going to get Vic Joseph, Jerry Lawler returning, and Dio Madden, who is the former Brennan Williams, who played in the National Football League for the Houston Texans. I actually knew that off the top of my head because I've looked this guy up a few times. While SmackDown is going to have Michael Cole, Renee Young, and Corey Graves. NXT is still going to be Mauro Ranallo, Nigel McGuinness, and Beth Phoenix. Nothing said about NXT UK, so now I'm curious. There were two names left out from the Raw and SmackDown teams now. That's Todd Phillips. Tom Phillips. Sorry, I'm being a little sniffly this whole episode. It was Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton. Now, Byron, I have no real clue what his new role is going to be. If he's going to have a new role, if he's just out of a job, I don't know. I don't want him to be. He's not my favorite commentator, but I don't want anyone just to be out of a job. That's never an outlook you should have for anybody in any sort of profession. It's like, oh, I just hope you're fired. No, that's rude. That's mean. And like I said, he's not my favorite, but he does well. He's really into the face characters, and he's really against the heels, which is a really nice thing to see. Meanwhile, I have argued this back with somebody else. Tom Phillips. He's not Todd, it's Tom. Tom Phillips is one of, if not the best play-by-play announcer in WWE history since JR. I don't hate Michael Cole. Michael Cole has his moments, but he's not as consistent as Tom Phillips. I also said this to somebody else on Twitter. Him and Vic Joseph are 1 and 1A. Those two are interchangeable, and it can work no matter what. I do have a theory on what could work. Now, there is a promotion that still has to have a commentary team be decided. NXT UK. We have to see that. We have to see who is going to be on that show. I don't think they're going to want Vic Joseph doing that because that's going to be a lot of work with him calling Raw and doing NXT UK. Nigel McGuinness might also be out now that you look at it because of the fact that he has to do NXT weekly. So I'm curious how long we're going to hear Vic Joseph and Nigel McGuinness over there. Tom Phillips could play into that. Byron Saxton, maybe, but he doesn't have that UK, what's the word I'm looking for? Not chutzpah. He doesn't have that UK knowledge is, I guess, the best way to say it. Then there's somebody who went out and said, you're looking at 3-man groups. You could have Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, and Paige. I sat there and thought about that one for a second. Paige does have the Kabuki Warriors, but they're not doing much. And they could easily... I don't remember what day of the week NXT UK is filmed. That's my main problem, because I never remember. I think it's on Thursdays. I think it might be a Thursday-Friday thing. Or a Thursday... Some places it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But I think it's a 2-day thing. So then Paige would have to miss a SmackDown to be part of the NXT UK tapings. Would she? Because I'm not sure how the tapings used to work with commentary. It might have been like they just get one shot, and then they record everything else off camera, or out of Full Sail, and then it's all like audio dubbed in, or whatever the terminology is. So I'm curious to see what the NXT UK team is going to look like moving on, because I think they still have maybe about a week or two of taping left, and then we'll see what happens then. Very curious about some of the stories going forward. I think we're getting Tyler Bate, Jordan Devlin have a story. I think Noam Dar versus Trent Seven isn't done yet. I'm curious what the future holds for the Women's Championship with Kaylee Ray, and Tegan Knox is getting a shot right away, essentially. And then there's who's next for Walter? What's next? Nobody really knows, which is going to be really interesting to see. Now, that's enough about commentary teams and what I think could be next for Tom Phillips. Let's talk about the re-signing of a former multi-time Intercontinental Champion, a former multi-time Tag Team Champion, and somebody who could never really break into the main event scene in WWE until he went to Impact and Lucha Underground, John Morrison. Now, I'm curious if that's going to be his name. He was Johnny Impact in Impact Wrestling. He was, what was his name? Johnny Mundo in Lucha Underground. And he was something else, too. I forget what. It might not be. He was Johnny Nitro in WWE before he was John Morrison. Now, I'm curious, where is he going to go? Is he going to be involved in this whole draft deal? And it's like a new free agent signing for somebody? Or is it going to be, it's a new signing, NXT? It could work either way to me, and I'm not sure which I prefer. But I look at it, this is a big thing, because his wife, I believe they're married. I think they're married. His wife is still the Impact Wrestling Women's Champion, Taya Valkyrie. Now, when her contract's up, I believe at the end of the year, does she go to WWE with him? Do they maybe hold Morrison out until... Or maybe he has a couple of matches here and there, no big feud yet. Oh, wait a minute. They could save it for Worlds Collide, where it's like, hey, here's a guy who doesn't really have a home yet, per se, and he wins the tournament to get a championship match of his choosing. And maybe then he pops up on Raw, or SmackDown, or NXT. Maybe he goes to NXT UK. I don't know how big John Morrison is in the UK. Who knows? It's an interesting... No, excuse me. Sorry. It's an interesting signing because of the fact that he's a name people know. We all know John Morrison. it's not like they went out and signed, who's the name now a lot of people know, Yoshihashi. I don't know why that's the first one popped in my head. But it's not like they went out and signed Yoshihashi, where like people who watch New Japan and Japanese fans are like, oh, that's so cool, we all know who this is, and everyone else is like, who the hell is that? We don't know. Every single WWE fan from 2000, oh god, when was Eminem? 2006? I might be shortchanging it a little bit, to about 2012, 2013. Everybody knows John Morrison from that era. Everybody knows who that is, and some people, like myself, have been like, oh, what's he up to? And I saw that he was an Impact. I'm like, oh, cool. And I saw that he was champion. I'm like, huh. Now, my concern is this turns into like a Bobby Lashley situation. Lashley went away from WWE back in like 2008. And he went elsewhere and he made his name. He became an overall better wrestler. And now he's injured. But before that, he was just middling in the mid-card. Is Morrison going to be like that, or is he going to go to the main event scene? Especially with Raw now being the B show for the first time ever. The Raw is actually going to be the B show. $7 million and Fox will do that to you. But they are really lacking in star power. Outside of Seth Rollins and The Fiend, there's not really many single stars left. Yeah, there's AJ Styles, but he's busy with the United States Championship. There's Braun Strowman, but to me, he's damaged goods at this point. That's really it. That is really all I can think. I can't think of anybody else who is a major single star right now. Yes, Heyman wants to build up Cedric Alexander. I believe Ricochet was on that list. Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode. Although, to be fair, in my draft article, 2 of those guys are leaving that brand. Slight spoilers there, I guess. And it's an interesting idea. Like, Heyman wants to make these new stars, and I'm totally fine with that. I totally want to see that. I like watching Cedric Alexander. I like watching Ricochet. Bobby Roode is great, even though he's, I think, 40 now. And with his style of wrestling, he could easily go till he's in his mid-50s, even 60s. Do I want to see him do that? If it's what works for him, and if he continues to improve and make his character better, yes, absolutely. I would love that. But the fact of the matter remains that right now, this very second, at 5:41 on Thursday afternoon, on September 26th, there are only 2 real big names who are not either busy in the mid-card or damaged goods at this point on Raw. That's something they really need to address in this draft. They need to find big names that can leave SmackDown and go to Raw, but they also need to make sure SmackDown continues to build up the stars that they have. And to be fair, they can. I really think that they can. And I hope that they do. So, I'm curious to see where Morrison's going to go. I'm curious to see what's in store for him, because right now it's like, what really is there? There's matches I'd love to see. I'd love to see him versus Miz at some point. Imagine saying that in 2019, excuse me. Back in 2008, when they were a tag team, this is when I first got into wrestling, and it was one of the first teams I saw, and I hated them from the get-go because they were bad guys. It's like, say that in 2008, in 11 years, Morrison Miz is going to be a match you want to see. And everybody would be like, get out of here. Miz is never going to be anything in WWE. He's a former world champion, former Money in the Bank winner, almost record-tying and record-breaking Intercontinental champion, United States champion, tag team champion. And I've said this to other people. Miz is a Hall of Famer. I never thought I would say that at the beginning of his career. I never thought Miz and Hall of Fame would ever be in the same sentence unless it's Miz goes to Hall of Fame induction ceremony as a guest. And now to say that is weird. But Miz versus Morrison would be fun to see. Maybe a little run together. Because Miz has kind of got nothing going on Raw right now. That would actually really help to... I don't know if I want to see Morrison and Miz in the tag team division for that long, though. Maybe it builds to some sort of WrestleMania match or something. Who knows? It's all speculation at this point, too. Morrison has not come out and said anything about it that I know of. I'm also actually... Now, this is an actual good reason. I'm going to check Twitter, actually. John... M-O... It's just like Henning, because I think that's his name on Twitter. And then John Henning Moo. No. ING. Oh, John Morrison. It is. John Morrison's trending at least, so that's cool. Does he even have a Twitter? I mean, people will be tagging him. People. Scott Morrison. Oh, he does. His name on Twitter is John Morrison. I'm an idiot. He hasn't been on Twitter since... Well, he hasn't actually tweeted anything since September 17th. So, interesting. Maybe he breaks the ice tomorrow. Like, yeah, I signed. Okay, cool. Where are you going? That's all I want to know. Now, that would be it because, like I said, it's a short week. We don't even have... Hell in a Cell is next week. Yes, weekend after this one coming up. I might miss it due to work. I don't know just yet. But right now, there's only 3 matches. There's the Raw Women's Championship match between Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch inside Hell in a Cell. There's the Universal Championship match between Seth Rollins and The Fiend inside Hell in a Cell. And there's Eric Rowan and Luke Harper versus Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns in a standard tag team match. There's still... What about the WWE Championship? What about the Intercontinental and US Championship? Where are the tag titles? Where's the Women's Tag title? Where's the SmackDown Women's Championship? Where's any of these matches? Which does make me think, it's the season premiere next week. And like, at first you think, okay, that's a little weird. Raw and SmackDown are weekly episodic shows. Yes, that's true. But it's just like The Simpsons. It's still weekly episodic. You still have episodes every single week. But seasons end. Now it's like, okay, new season, here's some new stories. And technically, I believe this week is a lot of shows, final episodes of the season. So you'll see like channels and networks have a set list of shows that run at this time on this date. It's like, you look at USA Network, for example, right now, although I think last week might have been the last episode ever, Suits would go from 9 to 10. Or like you look at an example of this is Dexter. Dexter would run on, I think I'm going to get the channel wrong, ABC is what I'm going to say. It would run for an hour, and that's the episode. And you would have maybe like 10 to 15 of these usually in a season. And like 15 weeks, it'll be like after 14 episodes, it's like on the season finale. That's how this kind of works. WWE gets a contract for so many episodes. It's always renewed because ratings are actually pretty decent for it, even though they're going to be like, oh, ratings are going down, blah, 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 blah. As long as they're above 1 point something, you're fine. There's a reason ECW failed. It was always below like 0.4, which is a shame because I really liked ECW. It wasn't as good as it could have been, but I liked it. So that's how this kind of works. And on the season premiere, we have Cedric versus AJ Styles. Cedric Alexander versus AJ Styles. I'm sorry, I'm just getting ready for whenever Vince decides to drop one of Cedric's names. Cedric Alexander versus AJ Styles for the United States Championship. I can see that one ending in disqualification via the Good Brothers, Anderson Gallows, and then Viking Raiders get involved. There's a 6-man tag, and then like Eric pins Carl Anderson, and then we get Cedric versus AJ at Hell in a Cell, and if the Good Brothers interfere, if there's any outside interference, then the match is over. Or like, if there's any outside interference for any guy, they lose. Oh, no, that's dumb. I'm dumb. It would be like the OC get involved, because they get involved after the match a lot. So like the stipulation could be, if the OC get involved, AJ Styles loses the US Championship. And that's how Cedric kind of wins it. Like, they try to get involved. AJ's like, no, I'm going to lose my title. Cedric pins AJ 1, 2, 3. Cedric's the US champion. Also, I never believe Cedric getting buried. Just going to put that out there right now. Also, that kind of sets up a possible match for Survivor Series. This is all speculation if Survivor Series is Raw versus SmackDown, which I really hope it is because I enjoy that. Now, the past couple weeks on SmackDown, Nakamura and Sami Zayn have been beating up Ali. Let's say at Hell in a Cell, that's no stipulation. Sami Zayn is barred from ringside. Ali beats Nakamura clean as a whistle. 1, 2, 3. Ali's the Intercontinental Champion. That would set up if Survivor Series is Raw versus SmackDown, Ali versus Cedric Alexander. The two guys that made 205 Live what it is today. And how good it is, and how good it's been. And it's so good, it's just in a garbage time slot. Going against each other, and there's history there. Cedric was the guy. He was the draw of the Cruiserweight division. And Ali was always playing second fiddle. Ali was always like a step or two behind. This could be the chance for Ali to break through and finally beat Cedric and say, I can do this too. Which would be really nice to see. And I'll be really happy. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Also, Survivor or Hell in a Cell could just be three matches long. It's like, go home. Or every match is an hour, and you're like, ugh. Except for Fiend well, that wouldn't work for an hour. That'd be like 15 minutes tops. And I am nervous about Fiend versus Seth Rollins because I feel like it's too early for the Fiend, but you can't have him lose yet. And it's too early to start setting up a match for WrestleMania with him, possibly with Undertaker. Maybe like, that could be interesting. Maybe the Fiend does win the title here. We go to Elimination Chamber, and like the Fiend is in the final 3, but then the lights go out, lights come on, Fiend's gone. And it's like, well, Fiend never lost the title, but where did he go? Somebody wins the championship, and then we get like a whole story, like who kidnapped the Fiend? Where'd the Fiend go? Bray Wyatt's in the funhouse and calls out Undertaker. I'm still holding on to hope that we get the Fiend versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. Is it going to happen? I have no idea. It's still like 6 months away. October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 7 months, damn it. I was off by the month. But we'll see. Hell in a Cell is in a weird spot right now. There's so much that they need to do still, but there's so much that they haven't done yet. And the WWE Championship is my biggest question because on the season premiere of SmackDown, we're getting Kofi Kingston versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. If that match ends in disqualification, I could see a no DQ match at Hell in a Cell. Or a match in the Cell, because usually we get 3. Right now we're at 2. Does Brock versus Kofi need the Cell? Not really. I don't think so. But it would be interesting to see. I could also see Kofi or Brock just snapping like, this guy won't stay down. What the hell do I do? My concern always with Brock is like, is he going to show up every single week? Is he going to be here all the time? Half the time that answer is no. But with $7 billion in a major primetime slot in a major channel, maybe he does. Maybe he proves me wrong. I don't know. But let's think. What else could I... This is one thing I wanted to talk about last week that I never really figured out a way to format. What WWE could learn from AEW. Now, All Elite Wrestling is getting ready to start up on October 2nd, this coming Wednesday. And it's an interesting premise for the show. Wins and losses are going to matter, which is why Cody Rhodes is getting the title shot at Full Gear. I'm also kind of curious as to why announce that if you've already announced Jericho will be defending the title at another show. Doesn't that kind of confirm that Jericho's winning that match? Don't you want to have at least a little question about it? Is he going to lose the title on free television? Probably not. I can see WWE pulling the trigger on, what's his face? Brock beating Kofi for their major title. Can I see Seth Rollins beating Mysterio? Or Mysterio beating Rollins? It's a long shot, but it could happen. Now, for AEW, though, wins and losses matter. it's not going to be like, oh, Kofi at that point, before challenging Daniel Bryan at Mania, he hadn't won a singles match. I think it was since like November or something. And Bryan had no real story going into Mania. I fully believe it would have been Ali if he had not gotten hurt. But like Bryan had no story, Kofi had all his momentum, and things just happened like that. Sometimes things like that just happen. And I'm totally fine with it. I'm not saying that Kofi never should have had a shot. Kofi should absolutely have had a shot. And I'm very happy that he finally got a shot. But now I look at it, it's like, with wins and losses matter in AEW, what if, like, say, I don't know, Sammy Gravina, mainly because that's the person Cody's facing next on a Wednesday. Say Gravina gets really hot, and everyone's behind him, but his record's like 2-8. Well, what do you do with somebody that hot now? Does he just start beating lower to mid card guys, or do you have him beating upper card guys? It's a whole weird thing. Like I can see it working, but I see the negative aspect of it too. And there is a few things they're doing right. I'm not thrilled with how AEW is setting up their women's division. I don't mind the women's division as it is right now. There's plenty of talent there. I've talked at length about Britt Baker, B. Priestley, and I think a couple others that I can't remember off the top of my head. But I don't mind Nyla Rose being in the women's division. I think she's actually a really good competitor. I'm not happy with the way she won the Battle Royal. That's my only issue. I hate outside interference being the final thing you see in a Battle Royal. And Hikaru Shida losing to Riho, I get the storyline aspect of it, but it's like Shida could have been your top draw easily. When you have a division with Shida, Baker, and Priestley, and your first championship match it's with Riho and Nyla Rose, there's questions being asked there. There's like, why not three of the hottest, biggest names for the women's division that you have, and instead you're going with two names that casual fans don't really know. Yeah, we're getting Kenny and the Bucks versus Jericho and two mystery partners, probably Santana and Ortiz. You're seeing Cody Rhodes. Yeah, we're seeing Paige versus Pac. Yes, I want that. Give me it. But now you're just saying the women's division is getting two people who you don't really know, and here you go. Yes, a lot of AEW is going to be establishing new names and making their presence felt. And I'm totally understanding of that. I totally get that. But you would think for their first match, they would want somebody big to be their first women's champion. There's a reason Jericho is the first ever AEW world champion, because of the fact that if you ask a wrestling fan who Chris Jericho is, they can probably answer that question in like 7 different ways. If you ask a wrestling fan who Nyla Rose is, AEW fans can answer that. Pro wrestling fans, diehard pro wrestling fans can answer that. The average wrestling fan, maybe not. Same with Riho. And I don't mind it. I like the match itself. It's a good story. But not the direction I would have thought of. However, the tag team scene, that's the direction I wanted to see. Am I happy it's a 7-team tournament? No, I hate odd man brackets. I really hate odd people brackets. Like, just put one more team in there. Yes, I know the Dark Order one at a first round bye. You could have easily just put Dark Order bye. I just don't like odd numbers, okay? I'm weird. I know. But you look at it, you have LAX, who's not even in the tournament. I know they're not LAX. I can't remember their new name off the top of my head. For some reason, Pride and Prejudice is coming into my head, coming into my brain. I don't think that's their name. If it is, it's really weird. You have Santana and Ortiz. I'll just say that. You have Santana and Ortiz, who aren't even in the tournament, and Helico and Jack Evans, who lost a poll to get into the tournament. SoCal Uncensored in there. Who's representing them? I couldn't tell you. You have Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. You have Private Party, the Young Bucks, Pentagon and Phoenix, Dark Order, and Best Friends. That's 9 teams right there. And you count WWE's quality teams on one hand pretty much. Let's see. AOP, Revival, New Day, That's really the Usos, Viking Raiders, and the OC. That's 6. WWE is trying. Okay, they're trying to get there, and I can see that they're trying. My big question, and there are teams that they're building up, like Heavy Machinery. They seem like we really like them. My big question is with WWE, why can they never seem to have a consistent tag team scene? Like, yes, back when the SmackDown 6 were a thing, that was maybe the best tag team wrestling we've seen in a long time. But they'll always have like two to three teams on each show that are just like a head above everybody else. And then there's like 2 teams who never get screen time, like the Ascension and the B team. I'm serious. Who did the Ascension piss off? They haven't been on TV in like 4 months. Where the hell are they? Put them on TV. They're so good. I probably run that point into the ground at this point, but I could care less. Another big question I have for AEW going forward, and I'm thinking this is how they could really help WWE. This is what they could WWE can look at and take away and be like, this is what we need. It's not the rating. I don't mind WWE being PG. I don't hate it. I'm in the camp where it's like you can tell PG stories. It doesn't have to be. It's a weird thing with the rating. It's like you don't have to be like blood, gore, violence, but when you have a promotion with Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, and Joey Janela, you kind of need to have that TV 14 rating. One thing that AEW can teach WWE, or what WWE can learn from AEW, is that fans understand wrestling. We know what's happening. We don't have to hear Michael Cole a bajillion times go over the fact that Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are dating. We don't have to hear them go over a bajillion times some little minute detail that we already know. We understand what's happening. We don't have the memory span of a goldfish, which I think is actually longer than people think, but still, we don't have that short of attention span. We know long-term storytelling. If you want to see that, if you want to see people understand long-term storytelling, go to YouTube. If you're listening to this, you're already on YouTube. After this video, go look up Shobuckle, The Fall and Rise of Tetsuya Naito. That is long-term storytelling at its finest. And that's somebody who did his research and understands this, yes. And I can show you another way that the fans have long-term memory when it comes to pro wrestling. And that's maybe the feud that saved me as a pro wrestling fan. Because before 2016, I had not watched pro wrestling in about 3 years. When Punk walked out, I pretty much just fell off of it. Partly because I was super busy and didn't have time, but also partly because I just wasn't interested anymore. And like nothing was like grabbing my attention. The one match that brought me back, Kazuchika Okada, Kenny Omega, Wrestle Kingdom 12. No, Wrestle Kingdom 11. Was it 11? Yeah, because 12 was Jericho Omega and 13 was Omega Tanahashi. Got it. So Okada Omega Wrestle Kingdom 11. That match was storytelling at its finest, and the right result happened. Okada should not have lost the title there. Fast forward to Dominion. I think it was Dominion. It was Dominion. A 60-minute time limit draw. And fans understand what's happening there. The story is now Okada is able to escape the title, and Kenny Omega is left asking, what do I have to do to beat this guy? I've done everything. There's nothing I can do. There's one thing he had never done. He had never hit the one-winged angel to beat Okada. So fast forward to the G1 that year. They're both in the same block. I don't think it was on the final night, but Omega got Okada. And that's with a 30-minute time limit. Omega acted under pressure and was able to pick up the win. That's telling us, okay, Omega can get the job done. He can get this to happen. And we understand that. We get that. We go from Wrestle Kingdom, which was in January, to Dominion, which is in July. I had to do math. To the G1, which is like middle of August. These two don't touch until July, until July of the next year. Omega loses the G1 final to Tetsuya Naito. And then there's the whole feud with Jericho because they're both from Winnipeg, and that's the whole point of the feud, essentially. There's probably a lot more that I'm skipping over because time frame. But still, these two didn't touch from August of one year until July of the next. And we still understood that story. We still knew the story that was going on. These two are 1-1-1 against each other. And now they have a chance to beat it in a tiebreaker at Dominion, 2 out of 3 falls, no time limit for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Everybody knew the story. Everybody knew the stakes. Everybody knew what was going on. And Omega finally was able to reach the mountaintop and the record-breaking reign of Kazuchika Okada and become the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. As far as long-term storytelling in modern wrestling, that is the best example of it. And I really want AEW to have long-term storytelling in their rivalries. Have Cody Rhodes and MJF have a rivalry go for 3 years. Have Kenny Omega and his rise back to the top go for a year. Don't let him even sniff the AEW World Championship until this time next year. I still don't know how I feel about AEW and the Elite having title shots, but that's neither here nor there right now. Give me long-term storytelling. Show me the rise of somebody. Show me the rise of like Brandon Cutler, the rise of like Luchasaurus, like we've been seeing since his performance at All Out, or Double or Nothing, excuse me. And show me, please, the rise of stars that we have never seen before. Kip Sabian, Sammy Gravina, MJF, Brandon Cutler, all these guys that we have a very small sample size of, and let them grow and let them become their own wrestler and tell their story, their rise to the top. That's what I want to see from AEW. That is the main thing I want them to teach WWE. The main takeaway from this, I like AEW's tag team scene, and that's something WWE can learn from. I don't like AEW's women's scene right now, partly because I don't like the idea of 2 mid-card women names, essentially, getting first crack at the AEW Women's Championship. What I do like a lot, and what I want to see, is long-term storytelling, and how AEW can prove to WWE that fans know what's going on, fans can follow a long-term story, and fans get it. Fans know what's happening. That is my main takeaway. That is what I want AEW to teach WWE. Or WWE to learn from AEW, whichever way you want to take it. But that is going to do it for me this week. Next week, maybe we have Hell in a Cell predictions. Maybe we have more than 3 matches on the card. Who knows? We will have AEW on TNT Episode 1 recap. And we will have something else. Maybe draft-related thing. I don't know yet. I have about a week to decide. So, we'll see. Like always, at the end of these videos, go back to the Twitter mentions. You can follow myself on Twitter at ShuroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. You can follow All Things Combat, which is a website I write for, on Twitter at Things Combat. We cover professional wrestling, MMA, and boxing in a wide variety. We have merch. We have shirts. We got hoodies. We got backpacks. We got thermoses. We got phone cases. We got hats. We got beanies. We have a lot of stuff that I don't even remember half of it. We have a mouse pad. Everybody needs a mouse pad at some point, right? Our merch store will also be linked in the description below. And also, I am the editor for I'm the sports editor, the sports editor for the Cauldron at Cleveland State University, where I write about sports. This past issue, I got to write about women's volleyball, which was very fun. It's something I've never done before. And I got to sit down with head coach of the volleyball team, Coach Voss, for an interview for the article, which I am very happy and grateful for. That will be linked in the description below. A lot of stuff is in the description below. Just go down there. It says a lot of words, a lot of merch stores, a lot of links to articles that I've written. And as always, if you like the video, leave a thumbs up. If you want, feel free to subscribe. What else am I forgetting? Comment something. I'm always willing to chat about anything. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you next week with something going on in the wrestling world. I don't know what it is yet. Maybe you guys will tweet at me to talk about something. We'll see. Enjoy your week, guys. See ya.